Okay, guys, welcome to the show. Sorry for the delay. Uh, it crashed twice, so I don't know what its deal was. Hopefully, it works out good this time. Welcome to episode number 8 called The Star Children. We're going to talk about the 3 waves of star children, or indigo, crystal, and rainbow children. This started coming late 50s through the 70s on up until now, which kind of influences and help and shows the way for this whole process and stuff that we've been talking about, the awakening and that such of things. Looks like we're going solo tonight. No Alex. Let's see if we can get this Facebook. Let's see if we can get the chat feed up. Maybe we'll have some input. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to get this chat going. I had some people tune in last time and it wasn't working correctly, and I didn't get to answer the questions, and I didn't like that. So I would very much enjoy to get this working here, just in case, because you never know. Alright, let's see if I can talk and work at the same time here. Which isn't working very well. This is where pays to have off 2 people sometimes. So, the Star Children. The Star Children are are 3 waves of children who came to Earth, the very first beginning of the wave, or the kind of trickle of the very first, have been in the late 50s. But the big wave was really from the 70s through the 90s, and these were the Indigo Children. These children, I mean, you can see it when you look at history. These kids were born different. They looked at the world in a completely different way. They were born more enlightened. A lot of people call them old souls, people who's been through many, many lives and has learned many lessons that kind of make them wise beyond their years. So the main influx was between the 1970 and 1990s. We'll call the souls before the main influx, we'll just call them scouts. So they would have been arriving before the 1970s. Indigos have a lot of the same characteristics as crystal children. There's a crossover mix in between, and kind of through your awakening process or your on your path to enlightenment, you're going to you can go through all these stages. The top being rainbow children, are just completely highly enlightened, and these are some of our very, very youngest children which are coming these days. So indigos, these kids knew what freedom was by birth. It was instilled in their DNA. They bucked the system at every turn. They kind of blazed the path for the next generations to come, to help usher in this shift of this awakening, this human evolution, as I like to put it, or consciousness evolution per se. Indigo children, they were the rebels. They were very intolerant about unfairness and injustice. These, obviously, you can look at history and see what these kids brought for us. They brought desegregation. They brought women's rights. They actually had to fight physically to usher in a path for the next generations to come to help through this shift. And it's really amazing. These children, these indigo children, the obvious ones would be like musicians who still touch and awaken people today, like Jimi Hendrix and Bob Marley and the Beatles. All these people were indigo children. They come here for a specific time, this point in history, to usher in the change and blaze the path for the new things to come, and the next generations who have different characteristics and qualities on such things. Indigos, they were the rockers, they're the fighters, the protesters, the warriors. They were the feminists, the anti-war, the anti-politics, anti-everything. These are the anarchists. They come here to tear down the old system and the old order and the old way of thinking. And that's exactly what they've been doing since the 70s. There's still people who exist here that are those indigo children. They just completely in their DNA is bred to see the world in a different light, and so they can't help their anarchy with inside of them. So a lot of these souls, lost themselves to addiction and stuff because they feel so passionate about uh, the change that they wanted to bring, and then some of them didn't get what they wanted or lost their way along the way. They ran off to addiction and stuff like that. But that can happen with any of these in these children, because when you're disconnected, you kind of forget what you came here for, or what your mission was, and your path, and all that stuff. You know, that's all from being disconnected. But these guys started ushering in this new wave of connection. They're very strong-willed and stubborn. They have problems with authority. They're highly intuitive. Some of them are psychic. They're very creative. They're not afraid to try new things. They lack patience. They often get frustrated, which is one reason why they might have problems with addiction, or it might run from their problems, because they really feel the passion and the urge to fight to make change come about, and some of them just didn't know how to do it, and so they lost themselves, and they just try to drown out their feelings. Despite being a rebel, they needed clear boundaries and structure growing up, and so a lot of these kids, if they didn't have that structure and stuff, they could definitely lead down a wrong path, and turn into turn to bad things on, like how they live their life, because they're not scared to live the tough life. They're warriors at heart. That's what they are. They are light warriors. They come here to fight by any means necessary to usher in the path for the next wave. That was their mission, and they did a great fucking job. They can kind of be insecure. A lot of them were diagnosed with ADD and ADHD, just like majority of all the waves of these kids. Leave it to society to try to label as the ones that's actually something is right with them, to try and label them as something is wrong with them. Go figure. The term indigo comes from your aura, and indigo children are typically their aura, the dominant part of their aura is typically indigo colored, and that's why they would coin the term of indigo children. Back in the day, people who could visualize auras and stuff coined the term indigo because of their aura color being a bright indigo color, and they were born that way. And that's you can easily see it, the hippie generation, all the things they did, the way they look, their connection with nature. They're getting back to the roots, fighting for the environment, fighting for equality for everybody, trying to stop wars, and the fight is still continued today, but it's not physical anymore, and it can be physical due to the system has been completely set up to try to make you physical, so they can really crash down on you. So physical isn't the option anymore, but it's part of the evolution anyway. The next step in this part comes with the crystal children and the higher enlightenment with people with the higher vibrations after 2012 and such. The end of that era of the actual physical, the physical fight. Now it's a mental fight. It's a fight in the community, where you got to get out there and you got to know how to raise these next generations of children, so they can do their mission, and also you gotta you really got to get with your community and do the connecting thing like we talked about in the very first episode. You've got to connect with your neighbors and your community, help those in need, love everybody. Do not hold anybody's color or religion or any of their beliefs against them, or how they dress, or anything like that, because that's what makes this experience so awesome. That's what makes Earth beautiful. All the different trees, all the different races of people, all the different species of animals. If everything was the same, then it would be fucking lame. So embrace the beauty and difference in people and everything else in the world. And realize that these differences have been used against you to control you, put you in chains and shackles, and make you fucking slaves, by trying to desegregate you, which they were already doing with race back when the first wave of indigos came to bust that shit up. They was already had you desegregated by race. And before that, they actually had real slavery and chains, but that ended just for the new wave of slavery, which included everybody being a slave to a piece of paper, that 9 to 5, that bullshit ass American dream, religious system. These were the new shackles of slavery. They used the religion and the politics and the fake imaginary lines drawn in the ground, and they used all these lies, and they used the TV and fear with the radio and music, and these are all the tools that they've used to manipulate you and control you and make you all slaves. And so the next battle is learning the real truth about history, because everything you've been taught and told is a lie, specifically to make you a fucking slave. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can shift on to the next stage. But that's the indigo stage, knowing that every fucking thing you've been told is a goddamn lie. Everything about religion, everything about fucking history, the sky's the damn limit. And it's so bad that people are realizing they've been lied to so much that maybe the earth is flat, maybe it's fucking round. I ain't never been outside of the solar system, so I couldn't tell you. But that's how real it is. That's how much people have been lied to, manipulated, and programmed, that you can see it, the awakening, the thirst for truth and knowledge out there. And that's why you've got people going as far as like, hey, maybe the earth is flat. Hey, maybe, I don't know. I'm not going down that road. As far as I know, it's round. But as far as a GoPro can go in the sky, which is civilian technology as visuals, it's not like you can see the whole roundness. I mean, I look at the moon in a telescope, I can't see that it's round. So, I mean, it's circular, but so is a CD, but it's flat. So I couldn't tell you. But indigos, you guys, the physical is over. You've planted so many seeds. The big seeds, or the trees that I like to call them, they planted the music back in the day that fueled these indigo children, that brought them together. These big ass hippie festivals like Woodstock and all this shit. That's the connection that is going to change the world. And that's what they did. They come together, they connected, they put their minds together against all odds, against real change, and they brought that shit on, and they fought it physical. So now it's time to bring our minds together and make sure everybody realized that everything was a fucking lie. And then as your turn, you indigos, it's your turn to be the leaders now, because all these old fuckers are dying, thank goodness. That's the last step to where the old world is going to be completely gone, because all the old fuckers are going to be gone, and what's left was some older ass hippies and these indigo children and the crystal children and the rainbow children, and you have to raise them and teach them things that you didn't learn, that we're all learning now, and that we're going through here on the show and stuff like that. And so we'll talk about that when we get on down the list here on the Crystal Children, on like things to do to help these kids, because inevitably all this shit is super confusing for everybody, because we were all lied to. A lot of people knew all the belief systems, all the BS. These guys knew about all the stuff that was coming, and they've just hid it away from you and tried to do everything they could to try and stop it. But it's something that's unstoppable. You can't stop it. It's done. We're evolving to the next stage, and it's everything in the world to be fucking grateful and happy about. And so, okay, so, Crystal Children. This is the next wave that came. We could say some scouts were born probably in the early 80s, because the main indigo wave basically ended in the 90s. But there's still indigos that coming and going the whole time. It just depends on really what area of the world needs this or that to influence this or that of that area. In a nutshell, because it's basically like a strategic game of chess, of consciousness, from higher consciousness beings, in a bigger scheme of plan to help push Earth through this social evolution to its next stage on the global scale of humanity. Because obviously we're not fucking alone. You're kind of stupid, selfish, and closed-minded if you think we're the only thing in this entire universe. They've already proven that there's billions of planets within what they call the Goldilocks zone, which are perfect rocks that are the perfect distance from their sun, that could have free-flowing water, and then with water, you obviously have all the elements for some type of life, and any type of life on any other planet is life, where there's vegetation, fish, plankton or bioluminescent fish or birds, any kind of living organisms. I don't know what the word I was looking for. Plankton, the other one, super small. Anyway, so the Crystal Children started coming in the 80s to probably around 2010, 2012, 2011. Some still be coming and going. Same about indigos, or children born with maybe mixed traits between the two, and vice versa. And so crystal children tend to share a physical trait most of them have like big, beautiful eyes. Um, they have a real pure spirit. They're very connected to Earth, more than the hippies and the indigos, which obviously they were really connected to Earth. These guys are even more in tune with Earth. These are the people that really want to come up and hug you. These people are healers. Their vibration is healing. Inevitably, all these waves, these people are born at a higher vibration, which helps raise all the vibration, and it also helps feed into the grid, and all that stuff, because all this stuff is kind of full circle. If you listen like 1 through to where we are now, everything feeds into kind of the whole thing. They're in tune with their own energy. They are going to be they're going to be teachers. They've come here to teach compassion for one another, and tolerance, and patience, and gentleness. A lot of these things that the indigos couldn't have to be warriors. I mean, to be a warrior, you're going to have compassion for the weak, but you're not going to have compassion for your enemy. That's how you're going to be a warrior. And so that's why I'm saying that the physical stage is over, because we have crystal children here now. If you're born, you could have been born in the 80s to early 2010, so you can be anywhere from fucking 30, you be like 8 years old to 30 years old and be born as a crystal children and carry the traits of these, or a mix of that and indigo. And so that's why knowing these things is good for everybody, including them. And so a lot of these guys are teachers now. If you're 30, you could be a teacher. I'm 30. As babies, crystal children were very sensitive. A lot of them probably mistaken as indigo children by the traits, because they carry a lot of similar traits as far as empathy and intuition, and psychic capabilities and clairvoyance and stuff like that. They're just a little nicer and a little more in tune to their feminine side. They are, very similar. Just that little slight change to try to release that warrior indigo trait, cause these guys were fucking light warriors, and they're still here, and so they had to fight, and they learned a lot of shit. So hopefully they take these lessons and they help on the newcomers, in the new wave, and the next children, and all that stuff. Because that's their mission. Everybody's got their own mission. Everybody's got their own path. Everybody's got their own life lessons to learn. And so they all have their own unique thing, but in essence, it's still a bigger picture that we're all working towards, that we're all working together on. Nobody's special. Nobody's better than anybody else. And none of these, it's just part of a bigger plan that we're all part of, and we all chose here to be a part of. Crystal children, sometimes they're late developers, because they have other means of communication. Sometimes they'll be described as being on spectrum, or maybe real close to autistic, because they're more in tune with their telepathic capabilities, especially if they had other younger siblings. It would have been easier for them to communicate with them, because they probably carried the same characteristics, and so therefore it's easier for them to communicate without necessarily words, maybe hand gestures, or just straight telepathy. It's kind of how it works. Crystal children are more touchy-feely, emotional, because they're more than likely going to be a little more intense on the empathetic spectrum. Um, Empathy is feeling other people's emotions, feeling some people maybe even can feel other people's lives, or they might flash through their entire lives just from their empathy. um, Crystal children, they make decisions based on their intuition, which is great because that's like a communication with your higher self, or source, or prime creator. Because you guys know I don't like to use the term God. If you want me to say God, hopefully you've gotten rid of your BS. And so if we're talking about God, I am God. I'm the God of my own universe. I'm a god of many gods. You are all gods and goddesses. Welcome. We are creators. God means I am. We are very powerful, and it's time for everybody to learn that shit. There's a prime creator. There's an essence and a light in the center of the universe. This is nothing but love and beautiful light. And then we're all a piece of that and duplication of that. And so, don't pray to God. You could be praying to anybody. Pray to higher dimension ascension masters, or prime creator. Because if you call out for God, you could be calling out for anyone. Crystal children are often more sensitive, obviously, to people's emotions and vibrations. And so, because of their intuition and their empathy is very high, so are indigo children, but these crystal children is even higher. So it's gonna make them super sensitive to people and situations, public places, highly negative people, bad people. Indigos and crystal children and rainbows, a lot of these kids are going to just straight up be able to read people like a book. But also these type of people, when you meet them or you see other people meet them, these are the type of people that people want to come up and tell you their whole life story. People, your vibe attracts your tribe. Everybody's empathetic and everybody has intuition, whether they know how to use it or not. So by controlling your frequency and your vibration, what you put out is what you're going to bring in. If you're in a bad mood, you're putting off low vibration, then that's exactly what you're going to attract. Vice versa on the positive point of the spectrum. If you stay positive thinking, blah, 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 you're going to attract, the new positive, all that. So the crystal children, these kids are like on point with their intuition and their empathy. And so they're inevitably going to distance themselves from older generations that are highly disconnected, or people that are bad. But really, they're going to be, they're super lost. These are the millennials. They're lost because the indigos haven't stepped into their place as the teachers. And so a lot of these crystal children are going to be self-taught thanks to the internet, and they're going to find their path. And these guys, thankfully, are going to help on the next generations, to where maybe us indigos may have slacked a little bit. Crystal children, also indigos, share the same characteristics of like being in solitude and isolated, Crystal children are the type of people that you'll make very long-lasting relationships with, because they're very loving. They know you personally because of their empathy and their intuition, and so if they picked you out to be in their tribe, then they must have really liked your vibe, or if not, it's going to be miserable for the both of them. So they make awesome friends. They're very great counselors and mediators because they can look at a situation outside of themselves, and so that gives them a completely different outlook, and then they have a little bit more compassion. They don't have to carry that warrior light that the indigos did, so that it really helps them on the counseling spell, our spectrum as mediators and stuff like that, being more passionate and such. But like I said, all of you guys, indigos, and every single person on Earth can be and have all these characteristics, just by taking the path, the journey within, to try and enlighten yourself, find out who you are, connect with the God within yourself, prime creator, source, creative force, whatever you guys want to call it. The God within you, the duplication of God, which you are. Crystal children are very often musical. They really connect with young children, and animals and vulnerable people such as homeless or the mentally ill or physically ill or the elderly. Indigos also shared some of those same qualities. They put comfort well above fashion. I guess you would call these guys the hipsters. They just kind of dress, wear, whatever, as people would say. That would have crowd like, oh, what are these guys doing? They're being themselves. There's nothing more liberating and more free, and more on the path than getting to know yourself and being yourself, whatever the heck that is. These kids are the ones that have no problem with same-sex marriages and transgenderness, or what you prefer to be identified as, and you shouldn't either. Nobody should care nobody should care to try and control how someone lives their personal life. Everybody has their own personal journey and their own personal experiences, and you need to be worrying about yours and your own. I'm pretty sure the Bible basically said that shit, but it seems like a lot of people kind of forgot that. But the more you journey within, the more you realize to each their own and their own decisions in their life. You're not to judge them. You're supposed to have compassion and love for everyone, no matter what. Plain and simple, even to the most disconnected, evil person you could think of. You gotta have compassion and love for them. Crystal children often have they often have to leave high energy places, crowds, such as like fairs, concerts, stuff like that, because they feel overwhelmed from all the energy around. Super sensitive to these energies, and so that's why a lot of them might isolate themselves. Or indigos and crystal all will go through phases where they just need their alone time to recharge, connect with their own energies. Whether they know why or not, these are traits that they will do. They'll want to be alone and away from everybody, and this is why, because they're empathetic, and a lot of them draw in other people's energy into them. They don't know how to control it and use it and things like that. And so they inevitably already know what they need to do, which is be alone and kind of recharge. It's kind of like the knowing without knowing, because you're born You're born all knowing. And then you're conditioned, and you forget. But that's part of the experience. If you knew what you came here for, you wouldn't quite get the entire experience now, would you? Crystal children often have an affinity with water. They're healers. They have a real calm presence. Being around crystal children, you could be upset. But a crystal child just being around you is going to give you this peace and calmness. They a lot of reasons why they're considered on spectrum or close to autistic is because they're so self-contained. They can be alone for so long. They don't have to be around crowds. They don't have to be in this bullshit culture society that we've created, where everybody's has been taught to try to be somebody else. You've been programmed by the TV to buy and wear and be like these fuckers in Hollywood and all this shit. It's just all programming. It's all the things that have made you slaves. These are all the tools. Forget about what brand of clothes you're wearing or what you look like. The sooner you connect with yourself, you will shed these egotistical tendencies, which has shackled you to slavery. These are the tools that's been used against you to make you overconsume. It's what's been used against you to not care about the environment. It's what's been used to scare you. Scarcity of resources like oil. We shouldn't be fucking using oil. We use oil because money is used because that's your slavery shackle, and so they make you dependent on something that you don't need so they can keep you a slave. It's 2018. There's no need for oil. I'm going to make a self-sustaining community, and I will show the world exactly what is possible. That is my path. I will do this podcast, and I'm also going to keep working towards the self-sustaining community that I've been thinking about for such a long time. So I'm going to use all my talents all together and show the world what a small self-sustaining community looks like, and how the world can be happy and free from slavery with no need for money. Energy exchange love. You need clean water, and you need clean food, and a shelter over your head. And this beautiful earth is more than enough to sustain every man's need, but it's not enough to sustain every man's greed. And so we are where we are now because technology is used to kill our fellow brothers and sisters instead of used to shoot us into the next fucking generation and the next evolution of mankind, where technology puts everybody at a higher standard of living than what even crappy middle class people like me live in. I'm middle class. I'm highly blessed with everything I've got. I've got it so much better than so many other people. But it's just insane what this upper tier, this upper echelon, the elite, your slave masters, it's just fucking unimaginable how they live their lives. But that freedom that they have belongs to each and every one of you, and this is what we're all about to get. With this change, this shift, and this awakening, in due time, I promise you, you will get exactly what we all deserve. And there will be no more starving people, and everybody will have exactly what they need and more. And then imagine on how fast technology, industry, and all this stuff is going to boom and grow as soon as you have an entire day to spend doing exactly what you love, creating what you think needs to be done, as far as inventions or artwork or all that stuff. I mean, it's insane on what people are going to be able to do. It's going to be beautiful, and I can't wait. I'm so glad to be here to be a part of it, and you guys should be glad too. count your blessings every day. They're always around you. That's gonna help you keep your vibrations chicken on up. See if I got some comments. Let's see what we got here. Alright, guess I'll check out the comments on the phone since it ain't gonna pop up live here before we go on to the last wave, which is the Rainbow Children. Alright, thank you guys for joining in and tuning in. Even my phone's being stupid here. Alright, let's go on to the next one. See if I can maybe get this chat up. Sorry guys, still just episode number 8, working out the kinks. Definitely enjoy you guys joining and having input. Anyway, so Rainbow Children. The Rainbow Children. Oh yeah, just to finish up on the Crystal Children, these guys' aura is typically very light pastel colors, more than likely rainbow colored, but instead of like a indigo, vibrant indigo color, they're gonna be more of a light pastel color. I can't see auras. Sure would be cool if I did. I'm sure people that can see auras, maybe they could tune in, maybe put some input in on that. So, Rainbow Children. Rainbow Children's here is mission to rebalance humanity on the planet. These kids are born at the upper echelon of enlightenment already. The wave more than likely isn't even here yet. There are some that have come. The wave may actually already be here. You would really have to know or maybe be around people who can see auras, because these kids' aura is going to be vibrant rainbow, because their chakras are balanced. They're highly connected to the consciousness grid. These people have all the characteristics of the indigos, but they're intensified like times a gazillion. These kids are our original blueprint that we were intended to be here on Earth, because inevitably what has happened, a sickness happened and it affected our original blueprint, and that's how we are where we are today. But these Rainbow Children are going to be straight up enlightened and delivered. They're going to come straight out the box per se, teaching everybody just by their actions at a very young age. They're going to rebalance the planet. They're going to be they're going to reflect your distorted values like right back at you. This is how they're going to teach everybody. They're going to be the revealers of truth. Rainbow children often seen as different. There are not many around yet. So we'll all be kind of getting to know them over the next decade, 2 or 3 per se. Rainbow children have a higher vibration than the rest of humanity. They are possibly like brand new souls who have never incarnated previously, yet they're arriving almost completely spiritually evolved. Rainbow children are usually offspring of crystal children. So they probably usually have at least one parent that kind of gets them. But necessarily that's not always the case, because you got the scout stage where you have to be the first of the first to kind of, before the wave comes, you have scouts that come, and then you still have the scraggler waves that are put in certain points on Earth to influence a certain area per se. Rainbow children often appear to be in their own world. These rainbow children is one of many reasons, but I believe these rainbow children is one of the main reasons of the large spike in autism diagnosis. Because autistic definition means basically problems with communication, and so to be highly involved and enlightened and to know all the tricks to this vehicle, you're telepathic and clairvoyant. You don't need language, words. So a lot of these kids, and also crystal children, a lot of these kids are not talking until like 3 and 4 years old, and so they're being labeled as autistic. But their parents and their brothers and sisters had no problems communicating with them, whether it was like sign language or just literally kind of the thought in your head of knowing what they were wanting. A lot of parents of these kids, hearing this, they're going to know that their kid carried these characteristics, because, you know, they had that kid that didn't talk to 3 or 4 years old. But damn, when they started talking, they were talking like crazy. They're just fucking super loving. They're just amazing, highly enlightened already. They're all loving and generous. They're nice and sweet, but they have a will of steel per se. You know, they want what they want. They're very brave and able to withstand hardships because they're caring and loving and enlightened. You know, just like Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. These people were enlightened souls, and, you know, they took whatever the world threw at them just to prove their point of knowing, all knowing you already have inside of you. When you know that, nobody can break you down with fear or pain, because once you realize that you don't die, there ain't fucking shit to be scared of. You know, it's that simple. Rainbow children are they really care for other people. They're obviously highly likely to be telepathic. This is the reason why they didn't start talking to 3 or 4 years old, or more likely they were probably diagnosed with autism. But then as they got older, you figured out they were brilliant as fucking shit. Same thing with the crystal children. That's why you've got 12, 13, 14 years old. They're inventing some badass shit. Because they're just that good. They're that connected with the consciousness grid and stuff. This is the same thing that it's the same place where Tesla and Einstein all got their information, was from the grid. We did an episode on that one. I think it's number number 6. You have to go back and check it out. Rainbow children, very high energy, both physical and metaphysical, like vibration. Obviously, they're super high vibrating. You know, they're born right there at the top of the spectrum at enlightenment. If you go back to the first episode or any of the other episodes referring to controlling your frequencies, I more than likely shared that graph. They're going to be way at the top of this graph right off the gate, and they're going to stay there because they're the closest thing to the perfect blueprint as humanity has seen for a very, very, very long time. These guys that were anywhere close to these rainbow children, we wrote books about them, and we created BS about them, belief systems. You know, these people are like Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, any of these great philosophers that were basically teaching you a message of taking the journey within to enlightenment. These people were at that vibration level that these kids, these next wave are being born at. So think of the new world where everybody is at that vibration stage of Allah or Muhammad or Jesus or Buddha, any kind of highly enlightened people that's been here, there's been stories told about. These kids, they're going to flood the earth. Everybody is shooting for that vibration. Everybody is raising their frequencies. This is the goal. That's where you want to be. Everybody possesses the same characteristics of all these individuals. And the sooner people figure that out, the faster the world's going to change. And it all starts with you. Change the world, start with yourself. Talked about that on the first episode. Rainbow children are, they also have large eyes like the crystal children. As a physical appearance, you know, big, beautiful eyes. They just draw you in, those big eyes that just reads your soul. As you look into them and you automatically know that they're just reading you like a book. But that's cool. That's how they're, that's talents that everybody possesses. But yeah, they were very late for speaking, and so I really believe this is why one of the large influxes of autism rates was given. You know, other than all the fucking poison being dumped in our bodies by vaccines, chemicals in the air, the water, and all that shit. But we're not going to focus on the negative stuff. But always remember, guys, you got to educate yourself, take care of this vehicle, put clean shit in it. You are what you eat. You replace every cell in your body within like 10 months. So what you are what you eat is a literal explanation. Like I said, you control those frequencies by what you put into your body. Foods, you eating a live apple, you're downloading that great direct live energy from the sun. You're getting information and everything from that live food. You know, so if you go back on those episodes on controlling your vibrations, we kind of hit and touch on that. Maybe we'll do an episode one day on vegans, vegetarians, why it's a good thing for you. Dolores Cannon, if you check out Dolores Cannon, she's got a whole book that talks about all this stuff. If you Google Star Children, you're going to find mountains and mountains and mountains of information talking about this. If you check out Dolores Cannon, she's got a book called The Waves of Volunteers. You know, there's people that's been talking about all this stuff under being hypnotized through quantum healing hypnosis and other such types of techniques. You know, there's all kinds of information out there for you guys to read up more on this. I got a awesome little story. You know, personally, I've seen with these crystals and these rainbow children, I've seen a a lot of them that's been labeled as autistic because they didn't talk very early, and then as they got older, like, what's wrong with this kid? There's nothing wrong with that kid. One, the school system blows. They were fucking smarter than everybody else. They got bored at school because they already knew. You showed them one time, they knew it, and they're like, why do you keep fucking teaching me the same thing? And then they're like, oh, you got ADHD, and they think there's something wrong with them, and then they just shut out. And so there's nothing wrong with these kids. There's something wrong with the society and the bullshit systems that we have. All the BS, all the belief systems, school systems, political systems. All the system is bullshit. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with these kids. You indigos, you guys, this older generation is dying out. That's why we gotta take the steps to change how we educate these young children, and these next waves, and how we usher in this new change to the new world. But I got an awesome little story for you guys before we go. If you guys got any questions, go ahead and throw them up on the Facebook chat. I'll try to check them out on my phone before I close out and try to answer them before I go. But let me tell you about this awesome story about an awesome little kid who's more than likely 100% a rainbow child. So he had little brothers when he was born, and so he didn't talk as fast as other kids because he communicated with his brothers, and his brothers more than likely carrying crystal or indigo traits or crystal and rainbow traits. So they were able, to communicate with him. They carry this compassion and this other traits from these other waves. So this little boy's about 4 years old, and he is 4. Lives up in West Virginia in the mountains. The farther you get out in the sticks, the more you'll find more racism and closed-minded, more controlled by all the BS belief systems. And so this kid's just at Walmart one day, and he runs up to this colored individual who had a scar on his face. He was a real tough looking individual. Looked like life had probably treated him really rough. And this sweet little innocent kid, not seeing color or anything, just seeing a soul that needed a little piece of light. He runs up to this guy, and he gives the guy a hug, and he tells him that he loves him. And then everybody else does too. And that touched the guy so much that he gave the little kid $20. And that's why everybody needs to be so happy about the changes in the new earth is coming. Because it's things like that is going to reshape the world so dramatically from anything you've ever imagined. It's going to be so great. So you gotta educate yourself, and you gotta take care of these kids, and make sure they're being taught the right things, which is love everybody, no matter what, no matter their beliefs, the color of their skin, anything. There's no reason to not love anybody. And so let these kids teach you the way of life, and try to be just like them. Sorry to get all emotional on you guys. But it really touched me when I heard about that. It's really beautiful. And I've always seen that light in humanity. It's always given me hope. And it's such a blessing to actually see it actually happening on that level. It's that fucking real. And it's that fucking awesome. So, does anybody got any questions, comments, thoughts, anything like that? Shout out to my buddy Possum. Shirt of the day. It is Possum, the musical marsupial playing acoustical. He's a nice friend of mine. He's obviously an indigo, probably indigo crystal mixed type child. He's a beautiful soul. He says the damnedest things. He's just a great guy to be around. If you guys ever make it down to North Carolina and you got a chance to pop in the Dragonfly or anywhere around here and check him out, you guys ought to do it. He does good music. Just a generally very great guy. And they're about to have a kid, and it's obviously gonna be another fucking beautiful, great rainbow child to usher in this new world. There's no doubt in my mind. Well, guys, I guess we're gonna close up this episode. It took me a while to get it out here to you. Sorry for the delay on the episodes. Told you guys I want to do 2 a week. I'll keep on pushing for that. So maybe I'll get a chance to come back at you this week. I don't know. I'm going to go this weekend to Asheville Mountains to do a spiritual retreat at a place called the Mountain Light Sanctuary. Maybe me and Alex will do a little recorded cast there, bring it back to you guys. Or maybe we'll just come back and talk about it. Who knows? Going to get away and get in touch on the inside. I want to check it out, see what works, how all that stuff goes, because this is going to give me knowledge on the community that I want to build. And it's just going to be all around great for that journey, that trip within. So maybe I'll catch you guys this week. Maybe I'll catch you tomorrow. Maybe it'll be next week. I don't know. When I decide, I'll try to post up as soon as I know. If not, I'll just try to get on and share. I love you guys. Thanks for joining. Peace and love. Namaste.